Wayne, can you hear me now? Okay, come on back. All right, Angie is not here this evening, so I can do the roll call this evening. Otto?
Here.
Dockett? Here. Ingstrom here. Westover absent with notice. Braun? Chick?
Here.
And Thomas? Here. And I apologize if I am too loud this evening. Our new system is really working compared to our other one, so I will try to keep my voice down. This takes us on to the first call of the, adopt the balance of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? No? I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Ingstrom motioned and Thomas supported. Can you hear me now?
Took my hearing aids out.
Okay. So we have a motion on the table for a motion to approve the agenda. Those in favor? Aye. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
No, I can't hear through these.
No.
I can hear you outside of.
Okay.
Wayne, do you want to try them without? Because listen how clear and loud it is. Can you hear? Hello, test. Mary, can you hear? Okay, thank you. Wayne, can you hear now? Okay. We have the motion on the table to adopt the agenda, and we're in those in favor. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. That takes us on to our next item, which is the call to the public. It's an opportunity for anyone to get up and tell us your thoughts, feelings. We do try to limit you to 3 minutes, and keep in mind this is not a question and answer session. Welcome our first speaker. Come on up.
Mary. Test. Okay, now it is. Saturday the 14th was a special day here in Northfield Township with the grand opening of our fantastic library. Then the tea and luncheon at the Wesley United Methodist Church, and later at Peaberry's Bean and Beats. There was music and a book signing by the author, Greg Jolly. Kudos to all of those who made these events so successful. And once again, congratulations on this room. It looks great.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening? Come on up.
Yeah, first off, the room does look great. That's awesome. And I'm glad to be here again on this beautiful day. And glad to see so many smiling people looking back at me. I wanted to say that, Monday is, I believe, a very special day coming up. Oh, my name. Okay, yes, thanks. T-A-W-N, Tawn Bellinger. And on Earhart. Actually, I'm running for trustee, too, so I should mention that, I guess. So please vote for Tawn. Anyhow, what I wanted to say, though, was we enjoy this liberty and our freedom. And it's quite a blessing and a grace that we have. And I just want to say that I hope that people spend a little time Monday and appreciate those that have given the ultimate sacrifice for that which we so much enjoy. Yeah. That's about it, and thank you for being here, and thank you, guys.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, let's move on to our board member comments at this point. Anyone have anything right now? Wayne, please go ahead.
Yes, I wish Angie was here because I have some concerns about our election that will be coming up. And I'm very disappointed that they said they're going to have 1 and 3 in this building. And I don't think they understand the problems it's going to be. We're going to have a big crowd. The parking is not going to work here. I've been downstairs over the years on the larger elections. People come, they've got one lady's got a baby in a cart and a stroller, one by the hand. It's raining, no place to park. They get up here and then they find out they're not supposed to vote here, they're supposed to vote in the back. It's a very, very bad situation, and I called our clerk and talked to her, and I left a message, but she never called me back. But I just don't think it's going to work. We're going to have a lot of people voting. There's no parking here. We need to have the school. So I don't know what we're going to do about it, but something has to be done because it's not going to work.
I did talk to her about that, and she had said they had said she's had several complaints, and that's why she had to move it back here. Because it's something, what is it, Howard, because on their card it says that they vote here, or?
Yeah, the permanent location for the elections has always been this building for precincts 1 and 3. And there was a complaint recently on the cards that the address was on this building for 1 and 3. And in the past, what we had done was we would have significant advertising and signage directing everyone voting for 1 and 3 to go to the middle school. We had to make a choice as to what ultimately our permanent location was, and the choice that we ended up making was to have this as the permanent location and at least give it a shot and try it. Obviously, that can be changed. I don't know if it's too late to change it, but I mean, again, if you have any thoughts or concerns, Angie is really the person that you would want to speak with. It's really her call.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that someone had complained about it, so.
Just a minute, Howard, I don't want to argue with you. We've never, why do you say that they've always voted here?
I didn't say that.
Okay, what did you just say? I thought you said.
Jackie, why don't you read the address on your card?
So on the back, there's 2 locations. Polling location is the Public Safety Building at 8350 Main Street, and the school district polling location is the Public Safety Building, 8350 Main Street.
I understand what it says on the card, but that's still not going to work. We're going to have a lot of people here. We have voted, whenever we've had presidential elections, we have voted at the school. There's lots of parking there. Even when we have a meeting night here, when you get the people that's going to be working 2 different precincts up here, and you get the people that work here, come on now, get with it. There's no place to park here. And I don't care what it says on your card. They need to find a place, even, they need to split it up, at least to have one at 75 Barker or someplace other than here. You cannot have this going on. This will not work, folks. And it's going to be heartbreaking when these people come and they're not going to have any place to park.
Howard, why can't we get that changed? I mean, clearly people change their addresses, buildings change, people move. I mean,
It's not up to Howard. It's up to our clerk.
oh, it's up to the clerk.
It is up to the clerk.
But Dockett's right about the parking. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
it's hard. They were
we-
here a few times. I mean, I remember coming here on the smaller elections, like the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Was easy, wasn't bad.
right. I mean, we can, my understanding really is the state wants you to have a permanent location, so that when those cards go out, you're not changing from this building to the school and then back to this building and back to the school, so that there are time constraints as to when those cards have to go out and what the address is. So they really do want you to have a permanent location. But ultimately, it is up to the clerk. It is up to Angie to determine where where the election does go and where it doesn't go. I agree that there will be parking challenges if we have it here, and I also agree that we'll have to do some creative things. Have all the employees park in the back. 7 Mile if we have the election here, we'll have to create chalk lines of angled parking on 7 Mile, which would probably give you 40 or 50 spaces along 7 Mile. I mean, we will have to have some creative solutions for parking if we have the general here. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Not only the general, we're going to find out when we have the primary.
Sure.
And it really shouldn't be here either. But you're going to see, folks, I've seen dozens and dozens of times. I mean, they're gonna park out on the road out here, they're gonna have the 7 Mile backed up, parked up. No, it does not work. So, we need to have a talk with our clerk, because it'll just be heartbreaking when these people come and they standing out there in the rain and they can't get in and there's no place to park. They got a baby with them. They're going to go and get in their cars and drive off. I've seen it 100 times. So,
Well, I'm not sure she's following the law. I, could imagine that, she likes it at the school. I know that. So we can talk to her later about that. She's not here. So why don't we see if anyone else has any board member comments? No? Correspondence and announcements. Anything new, exciting? Anyone want to talk about anything? All right. Let's go to agenda items. And that's the Washtenaw County Road Commission Road Maintenance Agreement. Howard, I'll give the floor to you.
In front of you, you have the road maintenance agreement. You have a memo from myself indicating the road projects. And then after the fact, we put in your boxes the actual copy of the agreement, which looks like this. The memo spells out the thought process for this year. Recommend approval of the road maintenance agreement and recommend approval of the information contained in the memo. I will just give you a sense of a few of the complaints that have been going on recently. I have to have a conversation with the Road Commission because while we haven't authorized the brine application yet this year, we do authorize that every single year. And the Road Commission went and graded a number of the rural roads, Hellner, Kearney, and we have had significant complaints on the dust out in the rural areas. And so I want to apologize to those folks that have been impacted that. I as somebody who does have asthma, do understand the implications of a lot of that dust, and it's apparently been pretty bad in some areas. So I'm going to have a conversation with the Road Commission on that, insofar as if we haven't authorized the brine yet, let's not grade the road until we get the brine down, so that once the road gets graded, we can come right behind it and have a brine application so that we don't have a dust issue. Other than that, the focus for this year on roads has been to anticipate the impact to our local road network related to the construction of US 23. We believe that there's going to be a number of roads that are going to be heavily traveled because of individuals just choosing not to travel on 23 during construction. And so we have focused our energies and our dollars on those areas. 6 Mile between existing paved section to Noller, all of Noller Road, all of Kearney Road, Jennings Road between end of pavement and Kearney, sections of Joy Road, and Spencer between 6 and 7. Joy Road being the sort of outlier just because there's some issues and we've had some number of complaints on Joy Road, so we're going to add some stone there. What we've decided to do this year is not to move forward with any particular project, which is typically what the Road Commission does, is they come and they present all these projects. But in fact, what we're asking for a board's approval on tonight is to just put a big chunk of money into township-wide ditching and into limestone, and we will allocate that limestone in those sections that I just mentioned. We'll also allocate the township-wide ditching in those sections as well, and potentially some other sections that we'll need from drainage work. So that, we think, is really the approach that we should take this year. And then maybe next year we can get back onto some of the projects and potentially partner with some of our surrounding neighbors.
and you did say you're going to hold back a little in case we have repairs.
We haven't done that in years past, and we are asking for that approval tonight, which is to hold back a 10% allowance so that, throughout the year we come across a road that's got too many potholes, and we essentially want to do some spot limestone work. And so we're asking the Road Commission and yourselves to hold back 10% so we can do that.
So we're voting on.
We are asking for approval on this tonight, yes.
On what? On what we're saying?
You're approving both simultaneously, the agreement and the information contained in the memo.
Okay.
The agreement really just has numbers attached. The information in the memo spells out the sections that we're going to focus on. And when we say all of Nala Road, that does not mean every section of Nala Road, all of it is going to get new limestone. We don't have the money to literally have new limestone for every section of Nala Road, but we're going to go up and down Nala Road and identify all the bad areas of all of Nala and all of Kearney.
But we're doing all the dust at the same time.
But we're recommending 2 applications of brine.
Have you talked to the county? How quickly can they get out there? Because I've gotten a lot of calls myself on, on the dust.
I'm going to be calling them tomorrow when I get in the office.
Okay.
And Jim Harmon knows that this is our approach. I've had a number of conversations, frankly, with the Road Commission in how they communicate with residents. The Road Commission has a tendency, and this is no longer just an isolated incident. This, in fact, is a pattern. The Road Commission has a tendency to pass blame back to the local townships. Let me just be clear to the residents who are listening and in the audience. The townships do not have any responsibility for the county roads from a dollar perspective. We fund the county roads from a dollar perspective because there is not enough money in the system in order to have good road repairs. And the county has basically said, we're not maintaining local dirt roads, and we're not even maintaining local paved roads. So unless the townships want to put money into the pot for local road maintenance, they're not getting dealt with the exception of some grading and probably a little bit of pothole work, and that's about it. So the local township jurisdictions are really forced to add additional monies to the equation. Now, they do provide a little bit of money every year. Our match this year is $25,000 on the road and $13,000 on the drainage, for a total of $38,000 for road and drainage work. If you were to have a 10-year road program in Northfield Township, you would probably need $1 million a year for 10 years to get the roads up to par with where they need to be. It's a total cost of about $10 million. So $35,000 or $38,000 of a match from the County Road Commission doesn't get you anything. Now, I'm not blaming the County Road Commission because they don't have enough money in the system. There's just not enough money in the road system, period. But I want everyone to realize that the township has, over the last 4 years, I should say over the last 3 years that I've been here, has steadily increased the funding to roads. When we got here, that funding was around a $40,000 or $50,000 mark, and previously it was even lower than that. We are now up to about $120,000, $130,000, $120,000 in road construction. So every year we have steadily increased that budget to try and get dollars in our infrastructure.
Great, thank you.
Howard don't hold them responsible, but they get money every time you buy a gallon of gas. They get money, and they have a very elaborate building out there, and they got a bunch of engineers out there, and a bunch of inspectors out there. That's where the money goes, folks. They don't go to the roads. Just drive out there on that road someday and take a look at what they got there. So I do blame them. And they get the money every time I buy a gallon of gas.
Howard, I have been asked by the association on 6 Mile if they call to ask to have it sprayed, because 2 times a year is probably not enough in that area with all the traffic that comes through. If they would pay for it, would the county spray? And I told them that they would have to contact the county on that.
Correct. It would be some kind of special assessment unless your association were to collect the money and just write a check. You'd
Right.
have to create some kind of special assessment.
All right, anything else?
I'll make a motion to approve the Washtenaw County Road Commission Road Maintenance Agreement as presented, and to direct Chief Wagner and Township Manager Fink to apply those funds pursuant to the memorandum dated May 19th, 2016.
I'll support. Thomas motioned and Chick supported. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like a roll call vote.
Sure.
I'm not in favor of it because it's their job, not ours.
Sure. Otto?
Yes.
Dockett?
No.
Ingstrom, yes. Braun? Chick?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, that takes us on to our next agenda item, which is the hiring of the two firefighters that Chief Wagner has put in his memo.
Yeah, Chief Wagner's not here tonight. I know I speak for Mr. Wagner in saying that he's excited to bring on the 2 new firefighters. Recommend approval.
These are not paid, are they paid on call? They're not full-time employees.
No, we don't have any full-time.
I don't want, but it doesn't say here.
No, they're paid
So-
on call. Paid on call,
I
and
just wanna make sure.
they could sign up for the duty program as well.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not sneaking something.
And I don't
in.
know what the regulations are, if they have to wait a certain time until they sign up for the duty program.
But they are both from Northfield Township. That's very nice.
I believe one of them is in the audience
Well,
tonight.
good for them.
Hello, welcome.
I'll make a motion to approve hiring Mark Richards, Jacob Donner as firefighter trainees contingent on passing background checks and physicals.
I'll second.
Great. Chick motioned, Otto supported. Any further discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Welcome
They
aboard.
happen to be
Thank you.
They happen to be grandsons of one of my favorite people in the township, Pat Kelly, who's been a resident here for a long, long time, who's in the back of the room.
Great, thank you.
For centuries.
It says it in front of his house.
Yes. For those who are listening, Mr. Pat Kelly has a centennial farm in Northfield Township, which is a farm that has been there for over 100 years.
All right, discussion items. That takes us to the property acquisition from the tax sale.
I had a conversation this afternoon with Kathleen McClary. I don't have anything prepared in front of you. I felt like I was just going to have this conversation and talk with you about it and just sort of lay out the facts. There's a $250 fee associated with all of these properties every time they go into default and they have to be sold at tax sale. There are multiple interest and penalties that are associated in the amounts of 18% on a particular type of fee, and then other percentages on different fees. So while, the information that Mr. Dockett wanted to be sent out, and I'm happy that he had that sent out to you, and the information that you have in terms of the assessed value and the taxes, just because it's only a $17 or $18 tax bill every year, these properties easily can run to $1,000 of back taxes because of all the fees and penalties and associated costs. Now, I want everyone to understand basically how this works. If we essentially pay, if we buy these properties before they go to tax sale, essentially what we are doing is paying for all of those taxes, all of those fees, and all those associated costs. Now, some of that is our money. Some of that has already been given to us, and it would be done in a chargeback mode. Now, I just want to be clear, because I know Mr. Dockett is going to say this, it's not that much, and I agree. Not that much of it is our money from taxes. If we wait, and we also pay not only the taxes from us, but we pay the taxes from the state and the county and everybody else. You're essentially paying the back taxes. If we wait until it is sold or it's not sold, the county treasurer has the option of either keeping the property or deeding it. Like, she has the option of deeding it back to the township. Historically, she's deeded it back to the township on these properties that are considered park properties that continuously go through defaults. And that's what happens, is that these properties go into default on a continuous basis, creating kind of significant work and issues and administration around these properties. So if we wait and she deeds it back to us, then there would essentially be a chargeback on the taxes to the other jurisdictions, the state, the county, and the local units, or the other local units that have taxes. They would get their chargeback So the state would have to pay back the county for the portion that the county has already made the state whole for, and that's also true of all the taxing jurisdictions on the tax bill. The truth is, though, that adds up to a small amount of money, because the majority of these fees and costs are associated with penalties and things of that nature. So we could wait, and if they don't sell at tax sale, and she deeds it back to us, we could wait and get them for a little bit less. How much less? She was not able to, or was not going to give a breakdown. If we wanted more detail and more breakdown, I think we would really need to FOIA it, and there'd probably be a fee for that. So that's really where I'm at. I personally believe that it's the right thing to do to just go ahead and purchase these properties so they don't continuously go into default and foreclosure. And we have had a policy of buying up these properties because it's the Horseshoe Lake Wetland Protection and it's a park area. Those are the two sort of sets of properties that are in front of us.
What happened?
Now, I will say this.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Jim, it sounds like he's going bad on his ears.
I can hear it.
Wait a minute, something happened. I can't hear.
His ears are bad again.
Mary, are you having the same problem?
Yeah, I can't hear a thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's all fuzz. I can hear it
I
from
can
here.
hear it from here.
Both headsets are causing problems.
That is painful. If that was in your ear.
Well, this is screwed up too, so it's not your imagination.
No, it's just making that. Must be.
Mary,
Mary, why don't you bring your headset over? Mary?
is yours working? Oh, yeah. Wayne, can you hear me
It's working.
now?
I can
without?
hear you, but
working now.
I
it's
can't.
working now?
I can't. I won't be able to hear other people. But I would like to say my piece.
Okay. Wayne, can I say one more thing before you do
Go
that?
ahead, Howard. It's your floor.
Huh?
You got the floor.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's my soft recommendation. I give recommendations on all the things that we do here. That's part of my job. This one's a soft recommendation. If you guys choose that you want to wait, it's not the end of the world.
May I have something to say?
Please.
To me, it looks like the Northfield Township is subsidizing the county. Now, we have paperwork that I passed out to us here. If you look on there, on this one, it says the assessed value is $300. That means the taxable value is $150. Now, if this piece of property is worth $150 and they want us to pay $1,124, I mean, this is so crazy. Now, for Howard to say that we bought them, yeah, we bought dozens of lots from there for $50, $25, $60. We have not been paying $1,100 for these lots. They're underwater. There's no roads to them. So no one's going to buy these lots. And it would be criminal for us to pay $1,100 for a lot that is assessed at $300 and taxable at $150. So please think about this before we spend this almost $4,000 for these lots that are worthless.
So Howard, one of these have the state of Michigan as the owner, as part of it. Does that mean that that's not a clean title?
No, that means it probably is.
It is?
Well, and that's the
It's
other
owned by
part
the
of this
state,
is
the other
that-
ones aren't.
That's the other part of this, is that when you buy them before the tax sale, you get clean title. When
Okay.
you buy them after the tax sale, you really don't. That's the other part, and I know a little bit about real estate law, but not enough.
Well, what I'm
But that was the
questioning-
other thing that the county treasurer indicated to me, is that you buy them before the tax sale, we provide, the clear title's provided. You get them after the tax sale, and you get all the encumbrances that go with the property. Now, I would want Brad to sort of have a conversation with the county about that, to understand that in more detail, but she did mention that.
So I guess I'm questioning that this is owned by the state of Michigan and we're purchasing it on a tax sale because they're not paying their taxes?
Where do you see that it's owned by the state of Michigan?
In care of the state of Michigan owner.
Back then,
Yeah, I mean, it
That's
doesn't,
right in here,
it's
too.
not
Yeah.
owned by the state.
they used to go to what happened is,
Not owned by the
they used to, after 2 years, when they don't pay here, it goes to the county. After 2 years, the county gave them to the state of Michigan, the DNR.
Okay.
And the DNR is who sold these lots originally. Then the county decided, well, we don't want the DNR to make all this money, we're gonna sell the lots. So that is why it's screwed up, and I don't believe they're clean titles when we get them. They are selling us their interest in them. You can see on here who owns them, their name's on here, the people's names are on it.
But taxes have first lien rights, and when the property's worth close to nothing,
Yeah.
you know, even if someone did have a lien, then they can never claim on it, there's no value there.
I just,
Why are we paying $1,100? Why are we paying $1,100?
Right.
If there's no value? We are subsidizing the county, and that is criminal, in my opinion.
I agree with you, Wayne, but, you know, I know we've been trying to focus on trying to get
But
those.
the last time we did not buy them, and Howard, I'm not getting after Howard, but then Howard says, I knew nothing about it, I don't think any of the board members did. They sent it to us, and he paid it for them.
We have no choice.
Well, I think you do have a choice.
No, we don't,
I
Mr.
don't think,
Dockett.
I don't think they can force you.
Just because you think we do doesn't mean we do.
Well, I'd like to hear a lawyer tell me that they can force us, to buy this property at the price that they want us to pay. That's baloney, Howard. You might know something about real estate, but
We did look into this previously. I can certainly pull the file and take a look at it again. My recollection is we ultimately are forced to take title.
your recollection is what?
My recollection is that we are ultimately forced to take title. I would need to check on whether we end up having to pay for it
Well,
or not.
maybe we take title, but do we have to pay $4,000 for?
And I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head.
I'd like to have something on that. And that's just terrible for us to waste that money.
When is the sale?
Huh?
When,
Right. Right. That's right. You're,
That was basically a loan against what they hope to collect.
You're 100% correct. And we are made whole at the beginning of the year from the county, and so there's a chargeback. And so we see it as a bill, but in truth, it's really just a chargeback to us. They'll charge back all the other taxing jurisdictions. The problem is the county does get their fees, interest, and penalties. Someone has to pay the fees, interest, and penalties, and that ends up being us. And so the tax chargebacks are minimal. It's the fees, interest, and penalties that you end up still paying, and they're allowed to collect them. And we can do an extensive legal analysis, but I think that we're just going to come up.
I would like to get a letter from our attorney stating that they can force us to take these and pay $3,700 or whatever it is. I don't believe that, Howard.
Howard, when is the sale?
I think that if, I don't know,
They do it on the internet. They don't have access.
Right, but no, there's an opening day.
let me say this. I don't think the issue of this sale is paramount, okay? I don't think the issue of these properties and this sale is the critical issue. What I think the issue needs to be is a policy of this board and subsequent boards, because probably the next tax sale will be in subsequent boards, as to what is the policy for these properties. Because we've had this discussion every year that we've done this. And 1 year we decided not to purchase the properties, and then the next year we decided to purchase the properties. I think we need to have a consistent policy as to what we do with respect to the properties in the park area and with respect to the properties in the Horseshoe Lake for wetland protection. And that would be my recommendation moving forward. Whether you buy these properties tonight or not, that's fine, but I think we do need to have some guidance and decide what we're doing.
We don't need them for those prices, that's for sure.
Okay?
Anyone else have anything? All right, that takes us to,
Well, where are we at?
it's just a discussion item tonight.
Okay.
Number 2, the Van Curler property.
So Jacob's in the audience tonight. I asked Jacob to put together a proposal for 2 things on the Van Curler property. Let's start with that before we get into the, if you don't mind, Madam Chairwoman. We can start with the proposals on the due diligence side before we get into the conversation of what to do with the property. So on the due diligence side, I've asked Mr. Rushlow to prepare a proposal for soil borings and a proposal for environmental analysis. And we've had extensive conversations about particularly not the soil borings, but the environmental side of it. And after some debate and discussion, I'm actually in agreement with Mr. Rushlow on how he's structured this proposal. I'll let Mr. Rushlow come up and speak to it.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here this evening. I'd also like to introduce Trevor with G2 Consulting. He's our environmental sub-consultant on this project who would, if you so choose to move forward with the proposal, would be helping us do the environmental testing. That's his specialty, and that's why I brought him here this evening. So before you, in your packets, there's a letter from us dated May 18th, 2016 in regards to the 2 items that Manager Fink had mentioned, the geotechnical investigation, subsurface investigation on the property, as well as some environmental testing. This is part of your due diligence period before moving on forward with a close on the property to do some checks on the soils to see a couple of different things. First, in the geotechnical testing, you're really seeing what's the makeup of the soil, underlying soils across a good cross-section of the entire compilation of all those different parcels to see how's the groundwater, how wet is it, is there any poor soil conditions that may hinder us from doing certain types of construction in those areas, and also help you to plan for the future on what you'd like to do with the property and where are the best spots to build on the property, and kind of get to know, too, even further, if you do choose to build in one area versus another, what type of foundations would you need, and that goes into the cost of future building. The environmental testing piece, and Trevor can probably answer most of those questions, is really just to make sure that there's no contamination, that you would have to look into doing expensive remediation in the property before you move forward with purchasing it, or at least knowing if there is any before you move forward with closing on that property. The soil testing, we have 13 soil borings total, which is a pretty good cross-section of the property. 4 of those that are in some key areas closer to the roads and closer to the where there used to be a gas station, an existing gas station on the north side, would be done for the environmental testing. If you have any questions on any of this, I'd be happy to answer any of those, myself or Trevor.
I have a statement. I think it's too bad that the township board here has just gone ahead and hired you people with a no bid contract, just handing you this. How much is it? 8,900 or something like that.
The total proposal was split into 2 tasks that the 2 that I had mentioned. Task 1 was geotechnical investigation.
How much is that?
That's 9850. The phase 1 environmental task 2 was 4550. And I will mention one thing.
40,
OHM has been the township engineer
14,000.
for a number of
I know,
years.
that's the problem.
We have a continued
we
service agreement
really
with the township.
we really should leave this stuff go out for bid, not just hand you $14,000. That's my problem.
On a situation like this, when we're under a time constraint for an offer and our due diligence, I support Howard's decision in asking OHM to come in for this one. Anyone else have any comments?
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've worked at an environmental testing company. So what are the metals that you're going to be testing for?
I actually wasn't intending to sample for any metals.
Oh, you weren't?
Nope, I was going to sample because metals generally aren't that big an issue.
Okay.
The sample parameters are volatile organics and semi-volatile organics.
Okay.
So those would be things associated with heating fuels, gasoline,
Right.
Dry cleaners,
Things
that kind
people
of thing.
don't. Oils.
Or might have been in use around the property over
Okay.
the years.
All right.
Anything? Go ahead.
Jacob.
What?
Nothing, I think I'm going crazy.
No, Janet's on the floor.
Okay, I have a question. If I'm looking at this correctly, some of the testing is going to be done in areas that aren't part of the parcel, or that we know. Okay, so everything that has on the legend is part of the acreage, right? But
Correct.
okay.
All right, anything else?
Yeah, I guess just to clarify on Ms. Chick's question, the parcels that we showed, we tried to get a good cross-section of all the parcels and do at least 1 or 2 soil borings on each of those individual properties. I think there's a total of 7 parcels that make up this contiguous property. So we tried to get at least 1 boring on each one of those parcels and spread them out in a good cross-section. I mean, when we get out there and really start walking the property, those borings could move a little bit here or there, but in general, those are kind of the locations we pinpointed that made sense.
Okay, thank you.
Do you need anything tonight, or okay?
I would,
Depot, so they bought the depot, so they had
I would recommend that if we wanted to move forward with OHM's proposal, that we do so tonight to preserve as much time we have in our due diligence period. I would recommend that you consider voting on that tonight.
Yeah.
And this does encompass the phase 1, and including the soil borings, correct?
It does encompass the phase 1, and actually that's the conversation that Jacob and I had, which was why
That's
do we
the one
even
I wanted.
why do we even need a phase 1? Because a phase 1 only tells you what the historical part of the property is, but it gives you a little bit more than that. It tells you where there are underground storage tanks and things of that nature. The conversation that Jacob and I had was, we will only, the 4 environmental testing sites will be focused on where the phase 1 tells us we have issues, as opposed to doing as opposed to doing sampling from all 13 borings, which I was incorrect, because I was under the assumption that, those were $100 a piece, and apparently the regulations are different when you're dealing with a true phase 1 analysis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you do those, and Trevor knows more of the details on this than me, but when you're doing the environmental protocol to set up for an environmental sample test, there are certain procedures that you need to do in the field to make sure that your soil samples are not being contaminated or cross-contaminated with another sample before. There's cleaning in between. There's different procedures they have to go through to meet those criteria to make sure that when you're taking each soil sample, they're being transported and maintained in their own separate containers, and there's no cross-contamination, so that you're really getting the true result and the correct result on your tests of whether there's contaminants in there or not in each sample. Yeah.
So would the previous owner have any of this information? Maybe they did it before?
It's possible. I actually have, I have not engaged in the current property owner to ask those questions. I don't know if the township has, but if they do have that information, I mean, anything that we can get would be helpful, especially in assisting with the environmental site assessment piece.
Right.
I mean, one of the things that goes along with that we routinely do is provide a questionnaire, which was in the packet as well, to try and get as much background information from the property owner or the township's knowledge of the uses of the site and things like that, so we can perform that phase 1 site assessment and then know the best places to do those environmental samples and tests.
The only thing a seller would be obligated to tell you is if they know that the property is contaminated.
Right,
So
that's
under Michigan law, they have an obligation to disclose
Right.
if the property is what we call a facility. But if they don't have knowledge of that, they don't have to give you more
Okay.
than they can.
Do we know how long Van Curler owned this?
Well, they bought it in all pieces. They didn't buy it as a whole. They obtained chunks at a time. I think one of the last purchases was the yellow house next to the post office, and that was probably 7 years ago.
What was next to the post office?
The yellow, she wanted to know that how did they get them all in? It was individual pieces that they amassed together.
Where the house next to the post office
That was
called Dutch Weber House. Dutch Weber was the township supervisor for 25 years in a row. Nothing came to Northfield Township unless Dutch Weber said so. What did come was O&S Bearing, that was off 8 Mile Road. That was part of his farm. O&S came there way years ago. Hoover Universal, which is off 8 Mile Road, that came to Whitmore Lake on his property. So, but as far as I have a question about the gas station. There's never been a gas station on there. I was wondering what you're talking about that.
Not on the parcel, but adjoining to it, there's an underground storage tank registered, and then 2 parcels up on the north.
Oh, yeah, where the gas station is.
Well, one parcel south of that.
That's the noodle factory. Never was a gas station there.
No, I think it's before that. It's, it probably would
Pat
be
Kelly, ask Pat Kelly if there's ever been a
on
gas
the right
station.
side of the tavern,
Yeah, in
If you're
fact,
looking at the tavern, it would be on the right side.
and on the historic aerials, if you pull up aerials from like the 50s, you can see a dispenser island.
Yeah,
That used to
would
be
the North
Val's,
Lake Club.
didn't it? Wasn't that Val's?
Huh?
Val's used to be there, next to the tavern, gas station. Then they
The
moved on the other side of
the
9
others- Why, I thought they were on the other side. There was a cleaners there, though, I can tell you that, when I was a kid. What was her name, Pat? Pat Brinkworth. Pat Brinkworth had a cleaners there, maybe 50 years ago or something.
Yeah, it was all this is very helpful information and is just more reason why on that kind of north
Right.
side of the site we want to do those lab samples there for contaminants.
between Pat and Wayne. I think you can do your phase 1 environmental. All right. I believe time is of the essence with our offer, and we would, on that property, we'd like to make sure that we get all of our ducks in a row. So I'm willing to make a motion to approve the OHM proposal for the soil borings and phase 1 as presented in their letter dated May 18th, 2016.
I support.
Engstrom supported and
Roll call.
Engstrom motioned and Braun supported, and Mr. Dockett has requested a roll call. I'll start to my right. Thomas? Yes. Chick?
Yes.
Braun? Yes. Engstrom, yes. Dockett?
No.
Otto?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could I ask a couple questions about, I have the real estate thing here. Howard, you want me to wait until call to the public or something, but,
No, on the Van Curler property?
yeah.
No, go ahead.
Okay, I read over the agreement, the purchase contract. I see nothing in here that says anything about the mineral rights. I'm wondering why almost everything contract has mineral rights.
You're right.
I read this thing twice, and I never seen anything where we asked about mineral rights. And a couple other things I know there's no buildings on them, but usually whenever I bought something on a contract like this, they make sure that no one has that lease on any part of it, or renting any part of it, or living on any part of it. So those 4 things, I would like to, before we get too much further into this purchase agreement, I'd like to have those addressed, about anything rented, anything leased, and mineral rights. Please, thank you very much.
Anyone else? All right. Takes us on to our next agenda item, which is the budget for the fiscal year of 2016 through 2017.
Oh, we still have more to discuss on the Vancouver.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're
No,
right.
you're fine. So the next item of discussion for the Van Curler property is what to do with the property. I have some visions. They're just my personal visions. I'll go ahead and state them once publicly so everyone who knows what some thoughts I had were. And then really it's up to the board as to how you want to move forward and how you want to gather input and so on and so forth. One of the thoughts that I would like to see is a lakefront park, whether it's swimming or just a park area for fishing and picnicking and things of that nature. I know that there are some constraints on the swimming side, and I think that there are going to be some topography constraints on the swimming side anyway, with, if you're able to get the sand to stick, because it is a very mucky area right there. So if you were to do a swimming beach, you would have to put in a significant amount of sand, get a permit from DNR, which you can do. You can get a permit to install sand over a geotextile fabric. So anyway, a beach or a lakefront park. One of the thoughts I had was a band shell for outdoor concerts and music at some point. Some area for parking, obviously, for the festivals that we have. And then the rest of it would be open for development, which the thought process that I had was to put it out for RFP to the development community through a broker that the township would retain and not hire, because there wouldn't be a fee for that, but retain that would represent our interests, and then put it out to the development community with some various deed restrictions and use restrictions and restrictions of the things that we want. So that was my vision of the property in a nutshell. There are a number of ways to go about doing this. I think it's prudent to start a public participation process with both the Planning Commission, with the DDA, with the new Downtown Development Group. All of the entities really need to be involved. Parks and Rec needs to have a significant thought process in this whole thing, because I'd certainly like to see some park opportunities for this land. And in order to put that all together, we could do it internally. We could hire McKenna to do a sort of community participatory process. I do recommend that we start that community participation process, and I recommend we start it now. The question is, how do you want to do that to start that process, and maybe tonight have a few minutes of conversation about what you all see as uses for the property as well.
Go ahead. I'll stop. Okay. So I do believe that we do have to have an open forum and get public input for this. That's very important for that. I hear a lot of chatter about we purchased this property, you haven't planned for it. Usually when you buy a house, you don't plan for what you're going to do with it. You have a vision, but once you buy the house, then you start planning for it. So this is the same thing. We have an opportunity for a property that we bought. I do agree that we have to have some type of park presence, some type of parking lot presence, but that's only a small chunk of the 15 acres that's out there. So I think that really it's more important that we have a public forum between whether it's a combined meeting with the Township Board and the Planning Commission, and have it as a public forum for input.
When we did our downtown visioning and our charrettes, excuse me, for the master plan, I mean, we did it internally. We didn't have to bring somebody in on, we facilitated it. So I don't
Right.
think we initially have to hire somebody to do that for us. And I think the sooner that we get a date that we can have everybody come into the public safety building or wherever we decide to have it and get their input, no matter how they give it to us. I mean, if we want to do easels or they just want to fill in a form or whatever. But I think we need to set something soon to do that because it's important that we have a plan in place. So.
We haven't bought it yet, have we?
Nope.
Oh, I thought you said we.
Yeah, I agree. Howard, like, obviously the Lakeside Park, I've always been on the fence on that whole swimming issue and in other discussions that we've talked about. Even if it was just a kind of a very boardwalk type, deck/deck, dock deck, that people could get out a little further into the water, maybe, fish off of there, some benches, things like that. But yeah, I think the possibly something with the public and private sector could be a win-win for everyone. We have the opportunity to get some parking in our downtown for any of our events. July 4th, the fireworks, any of the fall festivals that used to, like Michelle had put on before. I think this is a wonderful opportunity, and it's something that what our downtown needed. If this is done right, we could actually have people in our downtown area at all times. I mean, is it, through sporting, soccer fields, baseball fields, things like that, you'd have people here, every night of the week and all weekend, and really be able to support our businesses there. You could even, with a partnership like that, maybe they would build the bathrooms for our park, something like that, I'm interested to see what all the ideas that people would have.
Oh, is there grants out there for developing a park area? That we
Yes.
could, yes, okay. So we could look into that as well.
Yeah, great idea.
So I think that I need some direction as to move forward. I mean, I have a background in sort of public participation and creating public participation formats for discussion. I really do think, though, that this needs to be a project that is, it can be partially done internally to try to save a little bit of money, but I don't think that this is an internal project per se. I really think that this is a project where we probably should, in my personal opinion, should engage the services of McKenna. I think that that's best for this project. I think it's best for the fact that there's sort of an external consultant entity, sort of in some ways leading that participatory format. So, but it's up to you guys as to what do you want to do. I mean, my notion of participation is not just having meetings, a joint meeting between the DDA, the Planning Commission, and the Board of Trustees. Participatory planning is when we create a process, creatively create a process to engage the community and to do so in a way that people feel welcome and heard, and also to do so in a way where the information and ideas that we gather can be used for to influence our decision making. And so, Tracy could attest to whether or not we did that at the Parks and Rec. I think we did a pretty good job of it at Parks and Rec, or at least we tried it on a very smaller scale. And I have a lot of expertise in doing that, but I really don't think that this should be internally driven. The whole thing should be internally driven. I think we should engage McKenna in some of this process.
I don't disagree, but I think initially we can get the ideas from people first and then bring them in to formulate the designs.
Well, part of getting the ideas is the creation of how that happens. So, here's an example. So we get a bunch of ideas from people, and those ideas could be parks, they could be businesses, they could be various type of land uses. So even if we look at the sort of park concept, the park concept is a completely separate visioning process as what are the potential land uses or what are the potential businesses that we would like to attract, and how do we structure that RFP? Those are all things to think about and to create a participatory process so that the public, that we can help the public give us that feedback. And creating that process takes a lot of time.
Yeah, to start working on it.
Other communities have done things on this scale. Let's have somebody look into communities that have done similar projects, and let's look into how those were done right from the beginning. And let's steal from them. So why do we want to create a process? I'd like to know what other communities have done and whether they felt as though that worked or not, right from the beginning of their process. There are some critical issues that we need to address right away, which is how much is going to be set aside for passive use, park use, versus how much is going to be active use. And that can be a moving target, but that's a policy decision that we're going to face fairly quickly, and one that needs to be addressed fairly quickly. There's great opportunities for grants and for grant acquisition. We need to figure out where and how we go about doing that. There's great opportunity for public and private cooperation. Let's figure out what other communities have done and at what point they've pulled in that level of cooperation. I don't think it's incumbent upon us to create the perfect process. I think we should kind of reverse engineer it and go find communities that have done things very similarly and do what they did.
I agree 100%. Go ahead, Wayne.
I don't think we should hire McKenna to do anything or anyone else unless we set up a budget. Just hire McKenna, as Howard suggests. I don't think we should hire anyone without setting money aside.
I have no problem with
This is what we're prepared to spend, then go.
I have no issues with that.
Okay. I have issues with it, but I mean, I'd like to see some restraint of some kind.
Sure, of course. I agree with that. I think that we need to, if you want me to start it, I'll start it. But I guess I would like a little bit of direction if you also want me to bring in McKenna to begin this process. And if that's the case, then I'll do that too.
I didn't suggest, I just suggested that we find out what we're going to spend.
Well, there's absolutely nothing stopping us from opening this up to the public right now, and I think I think we should do that. That doesn't cost any money. All that costs us is time, and I'd like to hear from anybody that wants to roll up and tell us what ideas they might have, what questions they might have, what issues they might foresee. This is one of those where
concerns they have.
or any concerns they have, right? So I don't think I think we should move forward with that.
Yeah, I prefer to take it out of the rumor mill that goes on and bring it here. And if people
Well, I'm not that concerned about-
If they do have worries and stuff, I would rather have it here and have it in a public forum.
Sure, absolutely. But I would be interested in hearing from McKenna before we engage in a project. I wouldn't mind asking them if they have given any thought to it, and if somebody would be willing to come in and give us a really short presentation on what their thoughts might be.
Thoughts on what? On the property
How to
or
go
the
on
process?
the process.
Got it. Okay.
Without charging us.
Right, without charging us anything above what part of the retainer is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request, and maybe they've got some knowledge that could help us.
So if I'm hearing correctly, I'm hearing a coalescence of let's start the outreach so that people can start creating ideas and presenting ideas, and have a forum to do that, and to have McKenna at the next meeting to give a short presentation on what they think that process may look like. So what I will do is, I think initially, in the next few days, I will create a website or a section of our website so that people can begin to start submitting feedback. We will try to get out the word on advertisements, flyers, various, ways of getting out the word to everyone that, we would like people to come to the meetings and give us opinions. We would like people to write letters. We would like as much engagement as we can get. So it's not going to be very formal. It's not going to be very structured. It's just going to be come and give us your information. It's not going to be all that structured, but at least we'll get the ball rolling. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, so I will start that. Is there anything else that I didn't hear?
So could we have McKenna come to the next meeting and tell us what the process is? I'm sure they've been through it before.
Well, they're gonna present to you. They're gonna come and basically say, we recommend doing 2 design charrettes. One design charrette around helping the community identify ideas and various designs for the park. We recommend as a design charrette around the business side of it. So they're gonna try to give you a presentation of this is how a public participation process should look like for something like this, and this is what we will do. We'll do 2 design charrettes, we'll do a community survey, we'll do X, Y, Z, we'll have 3 meetings with these boards, and it'll cost you Y. That's probably what that presentation is going to look like. I will also ask, in addition to that, to give us some concrete examples of, because I hear what Tracy's saying, and I agree, give us some concrete examples of communities that you've either worked with or communities that you know of from know intimately the story of how they've purchased a large tract of land and what they've done with it, how they went about it, so on and so forth. In addition to that, I will personally start looking into the real estate transaction side of it. Not doing anything that will lock us into anything, but I'll start looking into talking in general to brokers about what does it look like to have a representative for the township? What does it look like to engage in that process? And I actually have designed an RFP document many years ago in my consulting days, is an RFP for municipal RFP for development. So I'll probably break that out as well. So I'll start that process. We'll bring in McKenna and we'll get the website up and running and get the outreach going. Any other thoughts of what you guys would like to see with the property, or kind of want to move on?
Yeah, we would like to hear all the different ideas that are going to come out of it before we can go any further with it.
Okay.
Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. On to our next item with 3, budget for the fiscal year of 2016-17.
So in front of you, you have the budget for the fiscal year 16-17. You have the synopsis by Rick. He does a great job on that synopsis every year. I want to point out a few things of notes, and forgive me for this comment. There's a lot of talk in this community about spending money and about fiscal responsibility. If you look to the graph that you have in your packets, you will see that in every year that this board has been in office, and every year that I've been helping the township board manage this community, there's always been a positive fund balance, meaning that revenues have exceeded expenditures. And you can see that in every single year, with the exception of 2011, and I don't know what particularly happened in 2011, there has been revenue over expenditures in every single year. And I keep trying to tell everyone that, and maybe I'm not communicating it very well. But the reality is that the last 4 years, fund balance has increased, not decreased. Now, the reason why it may seem different is because we have all these various projects and things of that are not included in the budget. We also have unspent appropriations, and we have various savings that we try to do on a year-to-year basis where we are constantly trying to figure out where to save money. And so the net effect of it has been positive. Now, the net effect of it this year will not be positive. There's no question that there will be a dip in fund balance this year, but it will not be a dip to the extent that most people think it will. So if you look at the Van Curler property and look at the boardroom construction, you may say it'll be a dip of $400,000, and it's not going to come close to that. Right now, we're looking at a projected probably dip of about $100,000. So as you can see from this graph, even in 2015, when there were a number of projects that went forward, you were still $785 net of revenue to expenditures, which means that fiscally, Northfield Township is very healthy. It's being, there's not overspending going on. Obviously, there's going to be debate as to what is being used with the money, and that is a good debate to always have. That is democracy in government. So just wanted to point that out to you. I think we should really applaud this board for doing good work, making property purchases, doing infrastructure analysis and potentially upgrades, and doing so in a fiscally appropriate and conservative way. And the information that's out there is not necessarily accurate to suggest that that's not the case. Obviously, there's debate on that, and I encourage that and welcome it. You have the budget in front of you. We can go over it. It's probably not that productive to go through it line by line. I can tell you there's not that significant. There's not terribly significant changes. One of the things that I did point out in my memo is that we did build in, and I recommend every year building in a cost of living increase. There will be a few merit-based increases that I recommend for employees, particularly employees that are new and employees that I think really truly deserve it. Nothing significant because we have given raises in the past, and I think we've done a very good job of making sure that our salaries are keeping up with where they need to be. But I think it's appropriate to always look at a cost of living increase. Cost of goods and services continuously go up, and wages should as well. I put in the budget, I just want to point out, be very transparent, I put in the budget a 3% increase for myself. I have not had an increase since I have been here in 3 years. I have not taken a cost of living increase at all. The 3 years that I've been here, now more than 3 years, I have not seen one increase over the salary that was initially negotiated in my contract. My contract was renewed after my first year, but I told the board that my own personal ethics was that I was not going to ask for an increase because the original contract period was for 2 years. And then on the third year, I never really...
Well, you didn't ask for this one, but you put it in there on your own.
I'm telling you about it. It's your choice to take it out if you wish.
Well, it says here, I have included a 3% cost of living. I am on Social Security. I got no cost of living this year.
Okay. It's the board's decision.
Why are you getting a cost of living? I didn't get one.
It is the board's decision. Just to remind everyone, the board really does need to do an evaluation. As every year, I request that evaluation happen in closed session. That's my right to do that. And the board does need to do an evaluation and review, and I ask that my salary be reviewed. Additionally, Chief Wagner it probably would be a good idea to do the same.
I
for
see
Chief
nothing
Wagner.
in the budget on Wagner, but I see here where you said.
Chief Wagner's budget isn't in here, Mr.
That's
Dockett.
right. Additionally, I would like the board to consider a merit badge, a merit base. Is that in addition to the 3%, Howard?
The conversation of my salary and wages is done in closed session, Mr. Dockett. All I'm saying to you is that I put in there a 3% cost of living. It's your choice if you
Your
want to.
salary is secret?
No.
Well,
but
$77,000.
That's correct.
So if you got a 3% raise, that's $100. Let me see. That's
Mr. Dockett, I'm not going to argue with you on
that'd be
this.
$50 bucks.
This isn't,
it's $200 a month.
Mr. Dockett.
Is that correct?
This is getting kind of not really
I'm at
appropriate.
3% of
I'm just telling you what's
77.
in the budget. It's your choice to vote on
Well, I
and take
think
it out
I
if
have
you
a
wish.
right to ask questions.
You're not asking questions, Mr. Dockett. You're
I'm
making-
asking the 77, and if it's 3%, that's $400 raise, a $4,000 raise. Thank you.
So, me aside, because
But is it a merit besides the raise, is what I'm asking?
in the budget, we've included a 3% raise for all administrative employees, with the exception, the sewer treatment plant does kind of structures it in their own way. We've included a 3% cost of living increase for every employee, and there are some other employees in there, newer employees and employees that I think may be deserving of a little bump in addition to the 3%.
Okay, so this here where you have, it says additionally, first of all, it says that you got the 3%. Then it says additionally, I would like the board to consider a merit-based increase, but that's not for you, is that correct? Or is it? The paper I'm looking at.
That conversation, I get by law to request that conversation be done in closed session.
Well, you don't want to explain what this says?
I'm sorry, Mr. Dockett. I'm trying to explain it, and I'm at a loss for words at this moment. Apologize for putting my fist on the table.
Well, I
So, Howard,
I can't believe you'd have a loss for words, Howard.
so Howard, is there a reason why we didn't get a copy of the police and fire department?
Because they're not ready,
Oh, okay.
and that'll be at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion on the budget, you guys? And you're not looking for anything tonight, right, Howard?
No, this will be on the agenda for the next meeting, and the police and fire budgets will also be up for discussion and probably vote as well. We'll be following the timeline. I don't have the timeline in front of me as to when the public hearing for the budget will be, but that it'll be on the next agenda. Know that with respect to myself as a contract employee, the decision of whether it be a cost of living increase or a merit-based raise in any way, that's ultimately your guys' call. I only put it in there as a placeholder at this moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you did, for you and everyone else at the township. If you'd like, I mean, thank you for the reminder, I'm talking, Wayne, that we should schedule our review and in our closed session. I'm sorry, we've all been so busy with everything. I think we skipped over that. So if you'd like to go ahead, maybe you could coincide it to any other, closed sessions that we might need to do. Sure. Yeah, because it is very difficult for us to all get here on time. But if not, I know it wouldn't take that long. So, all right. Anyone else?
Yes, I have.
Yes, Wayne.
On the revenues, it says rent deduction of $1,800.
Yes.
Why, I didn't hear, I've heard nothing about
the-
them getting a rent reduction. Is anybody
Yeah,
else?
and
heard anything
thank you,
about
Mr. Dockett. If anyone has any questions on this document, let me know, because honestly, the budget really is the most important policy document that exists every year. It is the most important policy document. So if you have questions, let me know.
Well, I have a question.
The decrease came, Mr. Dockett, because the two offices that were in the fire hall were being rented and are no longer rented. So if you add up those, that's what comes out to $1,800.
Did we get an $1,800 raise when they moved in?
No, they didn't but remember it was a $75 per office, $150 per month.
But we rented it to them for so much.
Right, but
Then they rented it out. Then the renter left, and now they want money back from us.
No, because they're not renting that from us anymore, so we don't charge them for it. What was that, Mr. Brown? Mrs. Brown? Right.
Would you talk into the mic, please? I can't.
It's not money that we're giving back to them, it's money we're not taking in, right? Am I right or no?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And so we account for all of our revenues and we account for all of our expenditures. And so if the revenue goes down, Rick does a really good job of noting when he believes revenue will go down and when he believes expenditures will go up or down. And then we try to follow the budget throughout the year. And as you can see from our...
When did this happen, this 1,800? They've been gone a while?
Probably about 6 months ago at this point.
I don't remember hearing about it. Okay. I did not hear about it. Maybe I was in Florida.
Any other questions?
The grant income,
Yes, can you just give me
it's just the second bullet down from the revenues.
under revenues? Yes.
It says a decrease of 250,000.
We just don't know what we're doing with the non-motorized path.
Okay,
So-
that's what I wanted to know, what that grant income was.
Yeah, so
Okay.
obviously if we move forward with the non-motorized path in 16-17, we'll amend that budget and put it back in.
Okay.
But it'll be a wash. And who knows, we may be able to get it built this year. It's just unclear.
I hope so.
Yep.
Telling you there's a leak. No, but I keep seeing it out of the corner of my eye coming down. Anyway.
Anything else, you guys? No? All right. Let me see. That takes us to number 4 on the discussion items, which is the fee schedule.
So every year, and we should all remember this is really good policy. Every year, ideally before you adopt your budget, you should review your fees. And we have been internally trying to do a really, not a massive overhaul, but slowly but surely upgrade the professionalism, the forms, all the various things around our building department. So now we're looking at the fee structure for planning and building and so on and so forth. So what I've shown you is a document in front of you with all of the fees associated with sort of the administrative side. Police is not in. Police and fire aren't in here. They'll be coming separate. Once you adopt the budget, you really adopt this via either an ordinance or resolution, depending on what the statute or our ordinances call for. And you really should adopt this every year via ordinance, which is your fee structure. In terms of the changes that we're suggesting that we increase the plan review fee to $60 an hour. The reason for that is because we're charged $50 an hour for plan review, and so we need to have a little bit of profit in there for overhead. So in essence, we're charged $50, we charge everyone else $60. There's no other changes in the building side. The changes are highlighted. There's really no changes in the sort of planning side, planning commission type stuff. The other notable change is on the solicitation, and for some reason, not seeing that section. Oh, here it is. It's the third page. Right now, we charge, I think, a $5 application for solicitation permits. That's really way too low, and we have a tremendous amount of administrative resources, not tremendous, but more than $5 worth of administrative resources that go into that. So I'm proposing an increase of that to $25. And I'm also putting in there for the first time the sort of making it official, which is our tax abatement application fees. And those will be set at $500 each. Now, there are a number of other tax abatement potential application fees, things like extending an application, or they forgot to file a particular paperwork, so they file it late. And there are a number of those type of fees that communities have, and we'll get to that. But the two main ones is the IDD and the IFT for $500. The other thing I want to note on the tax abatement is any legal costs are borne by the company. So in the case of Arvin Sango, which will be coming up at the next meeting, there is costs associated from legal counsel Steve Mann, and that cost is being provided to the applicants in addition to the application fees. Passed on, thank you. So that's your fees, and if you have any questions or comments or debate.
Well, I'd say they're high because we've got over $100,000 in the budget, excess for that, so we must be charging too much money for the fees.
Yeah, I mean, that is one way of looking at it. I agree with you that we cannot just continue. What Mr. Dockett is getting at is the building department is a self-sustaining fund, and so your fees really need to sort of add up to your expenditures. Your revenue has to tie out to your expenditures.
I think by law it has to, doesn't it?
But yes, but over time, you can have some variation. It doesn't have to tie out every year. But one of the things that we don't do, and now we're doing a better job of it, is tracking. And there's some major changes, not necessarily substantive changes in the budget, but major changes that we've implemented as to how we track revenue and expenditure out of the building fund, so that we do know where actually we're making money or losing money, and we understand it on a much more practical, intuitive way. And the other thing that we're doing now in the building department is creating associated costs that we should have been creating all along. Things like, frankly, the building department should be paying the general fund rent. I mean, that is, I know that sounds a little crazy, but that's typical. There should be these cost allocation models out there, because, that's part of the building department, is this building and the equipment and the phones and all of that. So we're doing a little bit better job this year of identifying some of those costs that we have just let go to the general fund in years past. And we're doing a better job of understanding where our revenues and expenditures are. One thing I wanted to bring up, and it is a project I will start working on, we really do need to get some digitization in the building department. And I would like to, and I'm doing some research as we speak, to try to understand what files would be best to digitize, and use some of that $100,000 to create some electronic filing of the building department. So as we don't have these boxes and boxes of things in the basement, there's now electronic records. And so I'm just trying to get my mind around how that would work, and what files are best to digitize and whatnot. But that would be a good use of some of those monies.
Some people might think that we're trying to find ways to spend that money. So, that's the way it looks to me. But and to a lot of other people, I'm sure.
Okay.
The money's there, so now we got to try to find a way to spend it.
I will tell you that this is just an anecdote, but I went to Plymouth Township maybe a week ago to look at some property records as part of my job. And back when I used to do that, it would be a trip to the counter, and it would be the clerk running around and pulling various stuff from boxes and going down into the archives. I planned for probably 3 to 4 hours work on what I was looking for. The Plymouth Township Building Department woman said, "Oh, go use this computer, give me an address," and she had that spit out like 10 or 12 different compiled files digitized with any number of pages, and there were descriptors on each file. One of them was site plan, so I could look at the original site plan from 1974 immediately. One of them was any ordinance complaints on the property, all the way back from 1974. Every time the property went through a change in ownership and there was an inspection, that was a separate file. My point is that it turned about a 4-hour, what I had anticipated was going to be about a 4-hour job, into 45 minutes. It gave me a flash drive, and instead of incurring $1 million in copying costs, exaggerating, they gave me a flash drive, and I have it all in the office. Didn't have to print any of it, didn't have to copy any of it, and didn't have to deal with documents from 1974, the physical documents. That's a project that, as long as we can bring it in for some reasonable cost, to some people, it would have tremendous value. I'm telling you that.
Yeah, I mean, it's time to get organized at it, electronic filing, you know.
Well, it makes it, I mean, in terms of time management, which actually costs, a business money, it's huge, and everybody's doing it. It's the way to go. It makes it easier for the people that are using it, makes the people that are facilitating it. I see a win-win.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to point out is I respect Mr. Dockett's position on this, and I'm not speaking to I'm not trying to challenge Mr. Dockett in his thought process. I just want to throw out there sort of factual basis that the township fees in Northfield are pretty low. They're not high, and so we're not just trying to create ways to raise fees. When we say we're going to raise a fee from $50 to $60, it's not to create a profit. It's to cover our expenses, to make sure that we're covering the overhead that we have. I mean, we have a tap fee or a sewer connection fee of $35.50. Communities around us are $15,000, $20,000. We have a building fee of $4 per thousand. I've seen $5, $6, $7 per thousand. I mean, our building fees are just not that high. And the planning commission fees are a little bit more in line with other communities, but we're not bloated government. I mean, it's a pretty lean operation. Yes, Mr. Dockett, taxes are high, but it's not because of the general fund.
It doesn't make a difference.
It does make a difference.
Well,
I'm not arguing with you. I want the people to understand this. Okay? The taxes are high in Northfield Township, but it's not because of the general fund. It has nothing to do with the building department.
When you change the fee from $5 to $25, that's quite a percentage there, Howard.
Those are the people selling you.
Maybe from 50 to 60 is not
I'll stop. I'm
that
sorry.
much, but $25 is quite a raise.
All right, so that was just a discussion item. This will be on our next agenda for voting.
Yeah, and then the other things, the property tax sale acquisition on for vote.
Yeah, but if maybe Brad could provide some clear understanding.
Okay, got it.
So just so we're clear, because we've had issues about this in the past, is the board's directing our office to prepare a legal opinion regarding...
I thought you had said you'd already done the research and we just have to go back and refresh.
We've done the research previously. Do you want us to draft a letter, or what specifically do you want in terms of work product?
I'd like to get the Wayne's questions answered.
Okay, so
so we can put this to rest once and for all, possibly.
We'll draft a letter for you.
Okay. Is everyone good with that? Okay.
I didn't hear. I don't know where.
We're getting you a letter from the lawyer's office regarding the tax properties.
Okay.
Thanks.
The budget will be on the agenda. The fee schedule will be on the agenda, and that's.
And number 5, DDA liquor license billboard. As you all see that. Thoughts, questions? Howard, you have the floor.
The DDA has gone through probably 3 months of work. Myself and Mr. Maines has assisted the DDA in creating additional liquor licenses and wanted to try to get the word out. I think most of the people in the DDA want to try to get the word out. And so I put together, or I asked for Adams to put together a concept as a billboard. It's your guys' first call as to whether or not you think that this is good, like it, appropriate. All of those things.
I think it's a good idea to get the word out. I don't care too much for the billboard. I'm not quite sure. This is the first I've seen of it, but to me it's a little bit, I don't know what word I want to use. I want to be careful.
In your face?
Because I do think it's a good idea to get the word out, for sure.
Yeah.
So are there other
But
avenues?
this almost seems
Well,
like
yeah.
maybe known
I mean, this
for
one's
that.
free.
I don't know.
So that's the reason why I gravitated towards it, because we get free advertising. We don't have to do a billboard.
I think that either do I. I think you could get the word out by having a article in the Ann Arbor News. You could have an article in the Current. You can put articles in other local newspapers around the surrounding southeastern Michigan area.
Or maybe alert some of the commercial brokers in the
Alert the
area.
commercial brokers, but to me, this is a little cheesy. This is a little cheesy.
I thought it was fine, Howard. It's free. It's free.
It's free.
So wait a second. Wait a second.
It's free. It's free.
What is actually happening here is the two of you are agreeing on something that none of us are agreeing to. That has never happened in all the years I've been here.
It's free.
Well, so is an article in a newspaper free, too. So there's ways to get it out there.
All right. I'm kind of hearing a coalescing of billboard's not a great idea.
It looks a hair cheesy.
Well, I mean, the image can be changed. The question is, did you want to, and I've heard this from other people, and it's okay. Doesn't hurt my feelings. The sort of, the concern about advertising liquor licenses on a billboard. And I've heard that from others, so I'm not, like I said, doesn't hurt my feelings. It's just an idea and a way to get the word out, and it's free, and I actually thought it was kind of cute. Originally, they had liquor bottles, and I'm like, absolutely not. I said, absolutely not. It gives us the wrong image. We're trying to get restaurants and pubs and places of eating establishments and entertainment, and so that's when they kind of settled on, well, but you're still advertising liquor licenses. So I guess
The below market price is what gets me. It's
What?
the below market price kind of sounds like desperate, Yeah, we're having a sale, 50% off, and then no one comes to the sale,
You can have a sign at my place, Howard.
for those who are a fan of Arrested Development, we're having a fire sale. A fire sale? Anyway, I digress.
All right, well, maybe all of us can give it some thought and come up with maybe some other ideas.
Yeah, do we want to nix the billboard completely, or do we want to
I
redesign
don't know.
the billboard?
that if you can change it around without having,
Well, what,
Okay.
we could,
still say the same.
yeah, and maybe, just, opportunity as a way, something like that through our DDA and.
We're looking
and-
for restaurants and bars through our DDA.
Right, and,
Huh? Restaurant opportunity. No bars.
Entertainment.
and,
You show a picture of people drinking.
Use the word entertainment.
yeah, dining and entertainment,
They'll look at, somebody will go south on that one.
2023 is an incredible resource.
Yeah.
And so we have this free advertising, and so that's all Willie's doing, is trying to take it.
I like the idea, I'm not sure of that. Let's chew on
Okay.
it for 2 weeks, right?
All right, we'll
All right.
mull on it.
And that takes us to our second call to the public tonight. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Come on up.
Mary Devlin, 9211 Brookside. I just want to thank this board for all of their due diligence and all the hard work they've put in during their term of office. And a special thank you to Howard as well. And I'm hoping that most of you will be back on the board again. And I have one other thing I have to say. I have sat here tonight listening to this board, as I have for the last 30 years, different boards, of course, and I'm really, really disgusted about hearing a board trustee continually arguing with board members, with Howard, and telling people up here basically that are given presentations that they basically don't know what they're talking about, and they're the ones with the expertise, and I wish it would stop, and I hope it stops after November. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else? Come on up.
Chuck Stoyer, 6 Mile Road. A couple things that I've heard this evening. A lot of talk about McKenna as a source to use for a fee. They're not going to work for nothing. Okay, to give us advice on what we want to do with the property that we're considering to purchase. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, McKenna owns the most active retail space at the 8 Mile and 23 Quarter.
No.
They just manage it?
McKenna's a planning firm.
That's McKinley.
Oh, that's McKinley. Sorry. Okay.
Sorry, I know this isn't a question and answer session, but I didn't want that to...
No, that's okay. I misunderstood. I use hearing aids, not headphones. The other thing that's come up that has been in the back of my mind for some time, talking about this building and the money we've spent on this room. One of the things that has not been done with this building, and I think that this board should be looking at it, is this building was over-designed as a public safety building. We built a castle of a police and fire shop. We have turned it into a township headquarters. We have done nothing to bring up to the usage that we have found for the building. The parking and egress issues that are designed for a police and fire shop. That we are not serving the voters or the taxpayers well with parking, or when we have meetings upstairs that involve the MDOT and things that we all are concerned about and bring a whole lot of people out. When there are heated issues that bring a whole lot of people up here. If it happens to be raining or snowing and you don't want to park illegally out front in the limited spaces that are available, you park out back. There are no sidewalks. You walk through the wet grass to get here. The solution that I heard for what we'll do for election parking is paint stripes on 7 Mile Road at an angle. There's no sidewalks from 7 Mile Road to get in here. You walk out to the street and around if you don't want to walk through the lawn. Those things need to be addressed, and I think some of the money that we're talking about spending should be spent on the rest of what needs to be done to get this building for the use that we're using it for. What are we doing with it? And what are we doing with all those carports out in the parking lot and we should have a back door that works. Those are things that have irritated me. Now, I know when I come in through the rain and the snow for a meeting, that I can shake Bill Wagner's chain and he'll prop the back door open. But it's done after you complain about it, not before. The other thing that I'm still hung up on is we keep bringing into the conversation about what's on our wish list for the Van Curler property, a lakefront facility. And I have said a number of times, would we please go out and flag that property that is on the lake across the street from the 23 acres or whatever it is, so we can visualize better what we're talking about? Because I hear people talking about picnic tables and beaches and docks and fishing and all those things that we're going to do on this strip of lakefront. And we're going to have to get across the traffic of Main Street to get to the parking that doesn't exist yet to use that little strip of lakefront. And I think when you can see that little strip of lakefront, it puts things in a different perspective. The other thing is we ended the board's conversation with some talk about raising fees, but earlier in the conversation I heard talk that the thing that the board has done right is our income has exceeded our expense, which would tell me as a businessman that we may want to tweak some fees a little bit, but we're bringing in more money than we're spending. So why do we need to talk about soaking the taxpayers for more taxes when we already admit that taxes are too high? Because fees are just another form of taxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to speak this evening?
Good evening again. The name is Tawn Bellinger. Yeah, a couple things I heard. This fellow here mentioned something. It was kind of like I was going to go in that direction. I understand this is like a fire department over there. I mean, does it really have active fire trucks? I don't know if that would maybe be a problem if they leave out over here at this 7 mile. Is that where they go if they have a call? I don't know if all the cars parked over there might be a concern if they have an emergency and they need to exit to handle something of that nature. That was regarding the elections, is what I'm referring to. Everybody trying to be here, and maybe the fire trucks need to get out, and there's an issue. So I just thought of that when you guys were discussing that. The other thing is, it did make sense. It sounds like a very good business practice to actually do get competitive bidding on various projects that are to be done. And that just seems like the proper way to handle business and to go about things, regardless of what it is. You want to buy carpet, you want to get your house painted, you want to get some soil samples, whatever it might be. It just seems like a good way to do business. And something else I was curious, I don't know anything about that, but being forced to buy foreclosed properties, that seems kind of really uncool. I don't know if that's what happens or not, but if some higher ups are trying to force townships to buy foreclosed properties, that's something that we got to stand against, I think. And please, I mean, if we're making a little bit on the plus side, still please be very cautious using taxpayer dollars. It is a valued, treasured resource, and it should be considered as such. So please just be careful with the taxpayer dollars, and that's all. Some people are real concerned about that, and I appreciate that too. And once more, Monday, let's please remember, with deep emotional concern, please remember those that actually gave the ultimate sacrifice for our liberty. Thanks very much, and I enjoyed the meeting, and have a wonderful, wonderful week ahead. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, that takes us to our board member comments. Anything down here to my left? Jackie, anything?
No, just wishing everybody a happy Memorial Day, and be safe and have fun with your families.
Wayne, anything?
Yes, happy Memorial Day. And November 8th, I know it's a long way away. It's a meeting night. It's election day. we have to change something. No-
Good point.
November 8th. Buy and use local businesses if you can. Thank you.
We might have a big meeting that night if we kept them anyway.
Yeah, a lot of participation.
We won't be able to park anywhere.
But I wanted to thank Howard for finishing this room. This was such a wonderful surprise to walk up here tonight. And the noise I can finally hear without the rumble always. And thank you. Kathy, anything?
I just want to say that's true. I talked twice without my microphone because the sound is so good in here. I just forgot I even needed it. It's great. Thanks. Oh.
Janet, anything?
No, nothing.
Sorry,
I
Tracy?
ditto everything. Mhm.
Right. All right, then I'll make a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Everyone have a nice night and a safe weekend.